I think it's time we blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
You know, what's actually pretty funny is I made that intro, and then like only minutes later, Demon Jim over in the Discord group dropped the fact that the Cowboy Bebop rule set is available for purchase. But anyway, hello and welcome back to a Squirrel Plays. Today is a very special day for a couple of reasons. For starters, this is my 30th video, which really doesn't mean much other than I've done this 29 times before. But today is also special because we're going to be having a look at a TTRPG called Mausritter, or at least I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. Last time I explored a new TTRPG and told you guys about it, there was loads of positive feedback as well as it being my best performing video to date. So I'm left to assume you all enjoy this kind of thing. And with that, I got my book right here, so let's jump right on into this thing. Here we go. So other than a TTRPG, what exactly is Mausritter? What does it bring to the table? Simplicity, my friends, simplicity to the degree that it is damn near poetic. The book is a whole whopping 48 pages, and that includes several pages of tables for rolling up an entire hex crawl map, a pre-made one-shot, enemies, weapons, traps, building rooms to explore, weather conditions, factions, traveling, and all kinds of wonderful things that make the game sound complicated. But man, let me tell you, if I can read something and feel confident that I have a grasp and can handle it, you know it's simple. Just have a look right here where it says how to play. The GM describes a situation, you describe what your mouse does. The GM will describe the outcome, conversation flows until the mechanics interject. And before I get too far off the rails here, let me show you the words of the creator, Isaac himself, used to describe Mausritter, or at least the first part.
All right, now which part did you want me to read, Mr. Squirrel?
Just this part right here.
Right here?
Yes, sir.
All right. The Mouse Kingdom survive on the edge of collapse. A harsh winter or heartless cat could spell the end for all. The settled mice huddle together, hidden in their settlements, in trees and burrows of walls, scraping and saving. A tenuous existence. But you are not like those settled mice.
Indeed not, my friend. You want adventure and wealth and cheese. Delicious, tasty, scrumptious cheese. Toasted, of course. And before I get into talking about the rules a bit, let me just throw you some random quotes from the book to give you a small taste of what's to come. Dice are dangerous. Clever plans don't need to roll. And I'm sure that just broke some people's brains. What do you mean I can't roll? My dice, man, my dice, my clickety-clacks, my math rocks, man. I gotta roll the dice. I gotta, man, I just gotta. And if that didn't lose the interest of 5e fans, then this will. Fight dirty, run, die, and roll a new mouse. That's right, you are not expected to live very long. Such is the life of an adventuring mouse. Attacks always hit. Yes, they do. Every single one of them. It's such a fun way to play. I've actually used this approach a long time ago when trying to modify D&D 5e's combat into something slightly faster than a slug on sandpaper, and man, oh man, is it so much more satisfying. HP is hit protection. This represents the creature's ability to avoid or shrug off real damage. Once HP is depleted, damage is dealt to strength. And that took me a minute to wrap my mind around, but it's actually pretty cool, and it keeps you alive just a little bit longer. The only way for danger to be meaningful is if the outcome of failure is meaningful. And man, Mausritter is making it way too easy to dunk on 5e. When the players have been smart, yeah, like that ever happens, and brave and followed good leads, give them rewards they have earned. Don't be miserly when the players face down great dangers and succeed. And real talk here, if you've GM'd for 5e before, you've probably been a bit sour a time or two. It's honestly kind of hard not to be. But then again, maybe I'm just preaching to myself here. And for the last of these little snippets, let me top it off with this little nugget. The rules of Mausritter will not cover every situation you and the players come across, and some parts have been kept intentionally vague. When this happens, adapt one of your existing tools to the purpose or create a new one. Make a note of the ruling for future use. And I'd like to stress the importance of that last part in making a note. Lord knows I've made some surprise, spur-of-the-moment changes and completely forgot them by the next session. But anyway, let's talk about some of the rules and what it's like to actually play this thing. And I'm telling you, I always feel like a bit of a fraud when it comes to this. I always feel like I don't have enough experience to be talking about these things because I still consider myself new to the TTRPG scene. But on the same token, games, game mechanics, design, and all of that is definitely familiar territory for me. So, imposter syndrome be gone, I guess. All right, so let's have a look at the character sheet. Here you can see you have a name, a couple basic things about you, 3 stats, HP, money, a grid-style inventory system, your level, and your grit, which is something to help you deal with conditions, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Now compare this to something like, I don't know, D&D? Seriously, who thought all of this was a good idea? I mean, look at all this skill bullshit and modifier nuttery nonsense. Proficiency bullshit and mastery bonuses coming out of their asses. You get a +3 to intimidation just because you're ugly. Good lord, man, 5e was the worst thing I've ever seen. Anyway, ranting aside, as you can see, things are kept simple. And in the spirit of simple, I'll read exactly what the book says for rolling your stats. For each of these attributes, in order, roll 3d6. Keep the 2 highest dice results for a value between 2 to 12. You may then swap any 2 attributes. Easy, no modifiers or anything. Just roll the dice and there you go. You can also roll some dice to figure out your coat color, your sign, which determines your disposition, as well as some other physical details. But more importantly, you roll for your pips, which is money, your HP, and your background. And this is actually pretty cool how this works. The value you get for HP and pips determines your background, and your background will give you some extra equipment. Every mouse, regardless of background, starts with some torches, some rations, and a weapon of their choice. But if I roll, let's say, a 3 for my HP and 1 for my pips, that puts me at the woodcutter background, and that background gives me an extra axe as well as some twine on a roll. And what's really neat about this table is that the worse you do on your rolls, the better stuff you get. So for example, if I rolled a 1 both on my HP and my pips, I would start off with the spell Magic Missile and some heavy armor. On the flip side, if I did really well and rolled a 6 on both my pips and HP, I'd get a felt hat and some perfume. And while it's possible you might find a use for those if you're creative enough, it's definitely far less effective than a spell and some heavy armor. But since you started off with good stats, well, that's what you get. The inventory is also really cool. Basically, most items take up 1 slot, but larger items like 2-handed weapons will take up 2 slots. Depending on where these items are will determine how quickly you can get to them. So for example, items in the body slots can be swapped as a free action, whereas items in your bag require full action to get to. Super simple, super cool. And to make it even cooler, you can get what the game calls conditions, which are negative effects on your mouse. A simple one would be if your mouse didn't eat enough, they'd get the hungry condition, and that would consume 1 inventory slot until it's cleared. And as you might have guessed, each condition has its own requirement for being cleared. For example, the hungry condition requires you to eat a meal. Nothing fancy, it's very straight to the point and simple, which I appreciate to the umpteenth degree. And as mentioned before, as you level up, you can get grit, which will allow you to ignore a certain amount of conditions. And while we're in the inventory, let's talk about item durability, or as the game calls it, usage. Everything in this game, or at least I believe everything, has durability. And by durability, I do mean your equipment can and will break. Like my heart if you don't like and subscribe. Get 'em! At first I was a bit skeptical about it because if you've seen my video on Breath of the Wild, you know good and well how I feel about item durability. But in this game it works, and it makes sense. You're mice, and you're using tiny things as weapons that aren't exactly the strongest or the most durable. You're scrounging and trying to stay alive. That's the name of the game. Staying on the lookout for new weapons is enjoyable in this case. But how does it work? Well, simply, as you might have guessed at this point. For gear, if you used it at all during a fight, simply roll a d6 after the fight is over. If you roll a 4 or 5 or a 6, so in other words a 50% chance, you will receive 1 mark of usage. After 3 marks, the gear in question does break. So really, you could end up with a super lucky weapon that gets you through multiple adventures, or you could churn through swords left and right. And if all of that sounds super unappealing to you, I would like to remind you that nobody is making you use that particular mechanic. You are free to take and use whatever you want. The book even encourages you to do so. In the words of Mr. Isaac, many systems can be modified, replaced, or ignored entirely. Please use this game as a toolbox to create your own. I love it, man. Love it. Now, I don't want to sit here and tell you every single detail about the game, although, honestly, I probably could because this isn't a very big book. But this is supposed to be a review, not a how-to, so allow me to jump around a little bit and talk about a few random points of interest. First thing being the way saves work. The book says saves should only be asked for as the result of a player's action or choice. Mice can do anything that seems reasonable and safe, but when they do something dangerous, ask for a save to avoid the possible consequences. And with only 3 stats to choose from, things, again, stay very simple. All you have to do once you choose the stat is roll a d20. If the roll is less than or equal to the chosen stat, the player succeeds. That's it. Modifiers be damned. You just roll the dice and it is what it is. Another really cool thing, other than, the entire game, is the magic. The spells you get are runes carved on tablets that you carry with you. Similar to Easy D6, you can decide just how much oomph you want to put behind your spell, but the more you do, the more usage marks your tablet will take. But your tablet will not break once you use it a bunch. You just need to recharge it, and that's the really cool thing. Each spell tablet has a unique way to be recharged. Some examples would include the Fear spell. In order to recharge that tablet, you would need to receive the Frighten condition while carrying that spell tablet. To charge the Darkness spell, you need to leave the tablet in a lightless place for 3 days. Fireball needs to be charged by leaving the tablet in the heart of a fire for 3 days. And Invisibility requires you to go a whole day without opening your eyes once while holding the tablet. And that's really neat in my opinion, and it really makes the magic something special. There's also rules for recruiting hirelings, as well as, and get this, an entire warband. That's right, you could get an entire warband of mice. And that blew my mind when I first saw it. I thought it'd be something super complicated and not worth doing, but just like everything else in this game, it's really simple. It costs a lot of pips, but it's simple. And really, guys, that is about it. There really isn't much to it, but what's there works so well. If I haven't said it already, the book is only 48 pages long, and most of that is roll tables for creating adventures, dungeons, factions, creatures, an entire hex crawl, weather, and all that good stuff. There's even a pre-made adventure in the back of the book to run, which is actually the one I played, and that game was run by our guy Craig from our weekly campaign. Craig is the one that introduced me to this game. And I'm telling you guys, you know how much I like Easy D6. I really do. But I'm going to be honest with you. Mausritter's really doing it for me. I would say it's a tough call between the two, but really they're kind of their own thing. They're both great in their own right. Easy D6 is really simple. It's to the point, it doesn't have a lot of fluff in it, and it is all kinds of fun. But in my opinion, Easy D6 is what D&D should be. And to be fair, that's kind of how it was designed. Mausritter, on the other hand, while also a super simple game, it is its own game. It's about mice braving the big world out there, and with the rules it has, you really do feel like a little mouse with the odds stacked against you. Instead of going up against the likes of a treasure-hoarding dragon, you'll find yourself trying to survive the onslaught of a cat or a snake. Things that we're familiar with in our regular day-to-day lives, but don't really give much of a second thought. When we're shrunk down to the scale of a mouse, suddenly those things are terrifying. But even then, nobody says you actually have to play as mice. You could apply these rules to your regular dungeon diving murder hobos, but I strongly encourage you to try the mouse life at least once. And coming from a squirrel, that ought to mean something. And if you're wondering how much the game is and where you can get your grubby little paws on it, well, I got some good news for you. It's available on Drive Thru RPG, and the price for the PDF is pay what you want. And yes, that means you can pay $0, which actually brought up some interesting discussion in the Discord group. My view on it is that you should go grab it for free and give it a read. Try it out with some friends in a one-shot. Now, if your group enjoyed it, each of you should go pitch in $1 or more and give it to the store. That's less than you spend on a drink out of a soda machine. And if you plan on using it again and keeping it around in your library for later, then yes, pay the suggested price, which I think is only $8. It's really a lot of fun. Craig ran a great game and kept us on our toes at every turn. We went into the game not knowing how to do anything other than roll our stats, and we were able to start playing within minutes. And Craig was even new to the game on top of that. Despite the harsh conditions it might seem like Mausritter has, I never really felt like it was unfair. But even then, if my character were to bite the big one, I feel like the game does a really good job of prepping you for that. Character creation is really, really fast, which keeps you from becoming super invested in your character right off the bat. But it also encourages you to be dangerous and to just roll up another mouse when the worst happens. The game even encourages the GM to quickly bring the player back in, and I quote, "When your mouse dies, roll up a new one." The GM should introduce them as soon as possible. Getting back into the game quickly is more important than realism. So for example, let's say, there's 3 or 4 of you, you're invading some kind of rat nest, one of you dies, you could say, oh yeah, they totally had a mouse prisoner over here, and that's how you get back into the game. Super easy. Just something like that, get the player right back in super quick. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I've got. Shout out to Craig, of course, for introducing the game to me, as well as being an absolute champ in our ongoing campaign with the mushrooms. I consider Mausritter a solid 5 out of 5, or 3 acorns out of a peanut, 6 pecans out of 4 walnuts, or whatever rating system you want to use. It's good. It really, really is, guys. I promise you. I highly recommend it. Now get out there and go play it, or swing into our Discord group and you can play with some of us. Bring cheese.